Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second edition of Mountain Forums. It's our virtual event series where we discuss the hottest news, insights, and data on connected TV that matter most to marketers and advertisers just like you. Now, my name is Jacob Tressel, one of the content marketing leads here at Mountain, and I'm going to be your moderator for today. Now, if you joined us for our first forum about a certain data-driven story we couldn't stop talking about at the end of last year, welcome back. And if you're new to the forums, we're very happy to have you join us today. Now, we're excited about this edition because unlike our first trip around the self-hosted webinar Sun, we have a very special guest with us here, Rockerbox, the leading marketing analytics platform and our newest partners in performance. Now, after our discussion, we'll have time for an audience Q&A. So if at any point you have a question for our speakers, feel free to drop that into the Q&A chat you should see on your screen. Now, speaking of speakers, I want to introduce our speakers. Joining us today are Emily Sheriro from Rockerbox and Lauren Reedy from Mountain. Now, before we jump in, let's tell the folks at home a little bit more about who we are. Now, I'll go first. So as a content marketing lead, I'm part of a team of writers responsible for producing pretty much every single word you had to read before joining us today. Now, I also do freelance writing when I'm not at Mountain, and I am a pretty big fan of the horror genre, but that's enough about me. I want to know more about y'all. Lauren, let's start with you. Tell the folks at home just a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Thanks, Jacob. Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Reedy, Solutions Architect at Mountain. I absolutely hate horror films, so I can't relate to Jacob on that front. But I've been at Mountain for close to 5 years now in a few different roles, but all have centered around supporting our customers. My current role as a solutions architect is really just a fancy way to say that I assist both our end users and our internal teams in building and identifying solutions to basically help them address their overarching needs. So that can mean a lot of different things, but one great example is getting to partner with a platform like Rockerbox to make sure our customers are able to fully utilize their technology when evaluating Mountain campaigns.
Thank you, Lauren. Now let's pass the mic over to Emily. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. And I'm totally with Lauren. I'm more of a rom-com person. We can bond over that after the webinar.
I love rom-coms too.
But yeah, my name's Emily Shiro. I am a product manager at Rockerbox. Kind of similar to Lauren, have been in a couple of different roles over the past 3.5 years at Rockerbox, working very closely both with our customers to leverage the data that's available in the platform to make decisions off of, and also working with our internal team to make sure we continue to build solutions that provide the best measurement for our customers, including this really exciting enhanced integration with the Mountain team. And I'll give credit to Lauren as well. She's been such a pleasure to bring this to life with.
Back at you.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Thanks, Emily. All right. Well, now that we know a little bit more about who we all are, let's get into today's agenda. So what we're going to do first is really kind of discuss what this Mountain and Rockerbox integration means and sort of why we're working together. And then we're going to get into a larger discussion about connected TV measurement. So, Lauren, Rockerbox and Mountain are now integrated, but what exactly does that integration entail?
Yes, we're so excited about this integration, Emily and I especially, because so much work has gone into it. But this joint partnership basically allows Mountain's proprietary cross-device attribution model, verified visits, which we'll talk more about later. We're able now to actually send that to Rockerbox, and they're able to utilize it for their attribution right in their measurement platform. So really the bottom line is with this integration, our marketers can feel really confident that they're now tracking that true impact of CTV right alongside all of their other performance channels in the Rockerbox platform.
Awesome. So I feel like that kind of answers the how of this integration. But now I want to get into sort of another aspect of it. Emily, what makes Mountain and Rockerbox really such a perfect pairing for advertisers?
Yeah, this comes probably as no surprise to those who are joining us on the webinar today, but we're in a really interesting time in the marketing and measurement space where I'm sure everyone can remember back to a couple of years ago, marketing spend was booming, investment dollars were flowing, and there wasn't as much of a need to prove the ROI from each marketing channel. Then the economy started to slow down a little bit. A lot of marketers pulled back their advertising to, say, just Google, Meta, and their own channels because it was so easy to basically prove that those channels were, providing value at the bottom line and driving revenue. Now marketers are back in that like smart growth mode where they're gradually ramping up marketing spend, starting to look into diversified channels as well as offline, and especially trying to grow that top of funnel again, but with a little bit of a more critical eye to show that bottom line performance. And that's where CTV is such a strong solution, especially with the really robust attribution data that MNTN is able to share back to Rockerbox. We've seen a 5x increase in attributed conversions, of course, with being able to attribute a greater volume of conversions back to MNTN. That also improves the MNTN CPA, which really was always the true CPA of MNTN performance, but now we're able to actually kind of prove that out in the data.
All right. Well, now I feel like the folks at home know a little bit more about sort of what this integration is and kind of why we're together and what those major benefits are. So now I kind of want to get more into the weeds about this wide world of connected TV measurement. So I have a few questions that I want to go through that I want both of y'all to have some input on. So we've already kind of thrown around a few technical terms like verified visits that we'll get into more. But before we really dive into those specifics, I want to just sort of pump the brakes a little bit and go back to the basics. So, Emily, how exactly does measurement work for CTV? Traditional linear TV has been notoriously hard to measure. So what makes streaming different?
Yeah, even before we get into measurement, there are a few characteristics of CTV that make it a really exciting option for advertisers compared to just traditional TV buying. So think linear TV, buying directly through networks or through agencies. CTV buying is just more accessible, so you no longer need the expensive agency or network premiums to reach the audience that you know is maybe watching certain programs. And this is largely because of the accessibility of CTV or streaming inventory through more of a DSP style. So many marketers are accustomed to running display advertising inventory kind of in a self-service platform, and that's just becoming more accessible within the streaming world as well. More importantly than ease of execution, this also creates an opportunity for more precise audience targeting. So advertisers who want to start spending on CTV can now precisely target the audience that they expect to drive into converters. And when this type of precise audience targeting is done, it unlocks a wide range of available data for measurement purposes. So some examples of those types of data points are hashed IP addresses and device identifiers. And these can be used to get a much more accurate sense of what specific site visits were driven by CTV ad exposure compared to, say, a traditional linear TV where there's a broader, more probabilistic approach applied, which is still totally a valid measurement methodology, but perhaps not as precise on the user level. So pairing this type of very precise CTV measurement with precise measurement in social and search and display and direct mail allows for marketers to understand how CTV contributes to their full marketing funnel and driving efficient conversions for their future customers.
Yeah, and I'll add, when we're thinking about measurement, I think it's important to remember that our TVs are internet connected devices, just like our phones and our laptops. So that gives marketers that same opportunity to really leverage that medium in more of a, digital performance strategy like they would, for some of the paid search or paid social channels where, that activity is happening more on a personal device. And then comparing it to like linear TV, CTV allows you to be a lot more surgical with your budget and with your audience strategy, like Emily was saying. So being able to really target TV viewers based on, their different attributes or their interests, just like you can on, paid search, paid social, and some of those other channels. And of course, everyone is streaming these days. We can all relate to that. Everything from TV to movies to live sports through our connected TV devices. So it gives marketers, a ton of access to a really huge audience through this medium. And so combining those two, so the performance capabilities of a digital channel, the really strong medium of a TV commercial, I think, that brings advertisers a really powerful medium to measure through Mountain and through a platform like Rockerbox.
Okay, great. Yeah. And we're talking about television and digital tactics. And even though we sort of call television remotes clickers, as we all know, the TV screen itself isn't really clickable in that sort of digital marketing sense. So kind of with that thought in mind, Lauren, what do you say you can actually measure from your CTV campaigns?
Yeah, yes, that is true. All the ads that Mountain runs on connected TVs are not clickable, right? So we actually developed our proprietary verified visit attribution to be able to measure that cross-device engagement. So actual site visits that were driven by your TV ads, even though, the user wasn't actually able to click on them. And from there, we're able to measure conversions as revenue and revenue as well. But yeah, so with that data, you'll see a lot of the same metrics you do in other performance channels. So think of KPIs like, cost per visit, return on investment, conversion rate, the ability to look at performance by geo or creative. And really you want to make sure, you have the right CTV partner that can provide additional insights. So more granular data into performance driving from those KPIs. So at Mountain, for example, we have a TV network report where we provide full transparency around exactly where your ads were running and where they performed best across all those different networks that we serve on. We also have an audience segment report, for example, that'll let you drill down into the performance tied to individual audience characteristics that you're targeting with your campaign. So for example, let's say you're a pet supply company, you can see which households that have a dog and versus households that have a cat, which one is actually performing better. So we can get a lot more granular than that, but that's just a good example of some of the insights that we're able to draw from your CTV campaigns. And then, beyond those more granular insights, we're also able to measure the overall incremental impact that CTV can have. So within our Mountain platform, we give advertisers access to transparent and always on incremental lift measurement. And it doesn't interrupt their existing campaign strategy. It doesn't cost any additional budget. So it's just, additional way that allows marketers to see the true impact of their connected TV campaigns compared to the conversions and the revenue that they would have produced anyways. So obviously they can use that to make impactful decisions on their Mountain campaigns, but also, we urge them to go validate that against external measurement providers like Rockerbox. And again, going back to basics, none of these granular insights would really be possible without the ability to first track that cross-device site engagement. And so those initial site visits that we're able to track through verified visits is what we're able to share with a partner like Rockerbox so that they can then run their own attribution and analysis alongside your other channels.
Yeah, and we're really lucky to have that really robust foundational verified visit data set sent over at the user level by the Mountain team. And then the additional layer of granularity that Rockerbox is layering on top of that robust Mountain data is placing CTV performance in the context of all of an advertiser's other marketing channels. We do this by first inserting a marketing touch point on a user's path to conversion for each verified visit. So maybe instead of a path to conversion that looked like a brand search click and then a purchase before this integration, now we know that actually a mountain ad drove a user to even hear about the brand in the first place, so that then they could click on that brand search ad and make a purchase. So some of the type of insights that this user level pathing unlocks is, of course, deduplicated performance. Instead of having just one touch point on the path to conversion, there are actually two channels that drove that conversion. So we're giving both credit for driving a single purchase, and that's reflected in a ROAS and a CPA or whatever performance KPI the marketing team might set goals off of. It also unlocks new versus repeat customer reporting. And then some journey metrics like the role of Mountain in the overall marketing funnel. Is it driving net new users to site for the first time? Or are there other marketing channels that are actually reaching users first and maybe an opportunity for optimizations? We can start to see that overlap with other marketing channels and halo impact with bottom funnel channels as well. So those are just some of the valuable types of insights that come with having this robust data provided by Mountain for, further insights and analysis.
All right, so we've mentioned verified visits a few times now, and I want to get a little bit more granular into sort of what that means. This is sort of a two-part question. Lauren, I'm going to give you a question first, and then Emily, I'll pass it over to you. So Lauren, first, what makes verified visits such a unique attribution model?
Yeah, I mean, I can start with kind of just like an overview or definition of verified visits. I know it's not the most familiar term for all if you're not using the Mountain platform. We actually coined it here at Mountain a long time ago, and we originally wanted a solution to better measure cross-device engagement. And honestly, this is such a major gap in the industry at large. CTV is growing at a very rapid rate. There's a lot of benefits. We've talked about it's a performance channel, a highly effective ad unit, but we still see across the industry that a lot of advertisers feel limited with this channel because it can lack really accurate or reliable attribution. I think there's, according to like recent studies, it's the number one problem that CTV advertisers are still struggling with. How can we accurately measure and attribute for this channel? So, that's why we wanted to develop cross-device verified visits to really answer that question of how do we measure the impact of a channel that isn't clickable. And also in a world where consumers are constantly interacting with multiple devices at a time. So if you're watching a TV ad, you likely have your phone in your hand. How can we measure, your activity from one to the next? So I'll give you kind of a run through of verified visits. It involves some kind of strict criteria, both to measure the ad delivery in the first place and then the user engagement, like we talked about. So to start, we're leveraging our unique ID agnostic device graph for over 120 million connected households to first serve your performance TV ad to a household that has a connected TV device. And then we're going to confirm that ad was delivered in full. So that means the entire 15 or 30-second TV commercial was seen. And from there, we're going to track whether a user organically or directly visits your brand's website on a device within the same household as that TV ad. And that will be within a window that the advertiser themselves determines after seeing that TV commercial. So we have a robust identity graph that is constantly matching connected household devices through identifiers like IP address, device ID, Google Analytics ID, et cetera. And that's how we're able to track that these devices are within the same household. And then finally, and very importantly, Mountain is running a diagnostic to ensure that the visit wasn't driven by another marketing channel like paid search or paid social. So that automated source validation it analyzes the referring source that delivered the traffic to make sure that it was the Mountain ad indeed that was actually driving that site visit. Again, either directly to your site or through, organic search results. So for example, if someone saw a CTV ad and then clicked on an Instagram ad, we're not going to take credit for that, of course. Instead, what we're aiming to measure is a situation where someone is watching their favorite TV show, let's say a horror film or a horror TV show for Jacob, on their big screen TV, and then they see a commercial for your brand, then they use their phone that they likely have in their hand to go check out your website. Again, maybe typing it directly into their search browser or Googling it. That's the type of scenario that we want to measure through verified visits. So we're deduplicating that visit attribution in real time to make sure that CTV is only taking credit for the visits it actually drove on its own. We're really trying to answer that big cross-device attribution problem so that advertisers can truly measure, how effective CTV is, and then the ability to share that with partners like Rockerbox to also do their own measurement.
Great. That's an amazing overview of verified visits. And now I want to get into part 2 of the question. For Emily, could you speak a little bit more about how verified visits fit into the Rockerbox measurement models that you're already using?
Yeah, of course. So of course, the Mountain team is providing the basically ad exposure, ad impressions that drove to a specific session, and is doing all of that great validation on their end to make sure, we have high confidence that the session was driven by a Mountain view. But then, of course, we know that not all conversions are just driven in a single session. So we'll add in that context of, maybe someone first heard about the brand from seeing your Mountain TV ad. They visit the site, they might add something to their cart, leave the site, think about it for a little bit, get a Facebook retargeting ad, maybe sign up for 10% off via email, click on the email, and then purchase. We're building that full path to conversion. And then Rockerbox customers have the option to apply different attribution models on top of this. So many of our customers will use a multi-touch attribution model where each of those 3 marketing channels that we just referenced will get fractional credit for driving the conversion. We also offer first touch and last touch, including, views, clicks, and other touch points like a direct mail send, to, determine and give customers full flexibility to decide how they want their channels to be credited for driving conversions when they're thinking about performance. So we make all of this data available in our UI, and then also in shared tables that our customers have in their data warehouse. So with this very granular log level and user level data in their data warehouse, our customers are also able to incorporate Mountain reporting alongside all of their other marketing channels, and then do things like build out a custom dashboard or apply a multiplier to some of their data, or even join against internal customer data to start to get at questions like what's the LTV driven by Mountain compared to maybe the other traditional linear TV that I'm testing.
Great, thank you. So I feel like we've been kind of touching on and discussing the benefit of connected TV as this full funnel performance marketing channel. But Emily, how would you say CTV could fit into a broader performance strategy?
Yeah, CTV is, of course, a popular and effective marketing channel for brands, often when they're thinking about new customer acquisition and growth. What happens is often a brand will start with advertising on your more traditional, always-on channels like Google, social, especially with heavy spending on Meta. They'll also run email marketing campaigns, and many rely heavily on organic and influencers and things like that. But then they hit a point of scale or a point of maturity where they're having trouble scaling more into those traditional channels. Maybe they're hitting diminishing returns on Meta. They've already reached the audience that's available on Meta and are starting to see performance drop off because they're just kind of sending ad dollars into the abyss. That's where starting to test into, offline and CTV channels can be a really effective full funnel play to reach new customers who would not have heard about the brand if it weren't for seeing, this specific advertisement. we actually saw when we think about CTV versus some of those other top of funnel channels, 70% of advertisers who are leveraging this enhanced integration saw a CPA between 18 and 33% lower than their other top spending top of funnel channels. So including your paid social and maybe your linear TV. Our advertisers actually saw an 18% lower CPA with Mountain CTV compared to traditional linear TV. So it starts to compete very well performance-wise because of this great measurement with the other full funnel marketing channels that you're probably already spending on, and starts to make that, comprehensive funnel. It also drives a nice lift onto your bottom funnel channels. So say a marketer started running with Mountain a month ago. It takes a potential customer a couple of weeks in order to actually convert, but we know that they're clicking on or being exposed to those middle and bottom funnel marketing channels like your brand search and your retargeting campaigns. So, filling that top of the funnel can also drive to a nice lift on some of those bottom funnel channels as well. And that's what we start to unpack with the Rockerbox Journey product, seeing that halo impact of, we started testing into Mountain last month. Of course, we can see the CPA or the ROAS of Mountain, which is great, but we can also see what other channels are benefiting from Mountain now that we have that more full upper funnel.
Yeah, I love all of that. I completely agree with Emily. And I think it's a really important consideration for marketers to keep in mind when they're looking at the value and the overall performance of their CTV campaigns, not just that direct, conversion and revenue impact, but how is it actually impacting my overall efforts and the effectiveness of some of my other channels? So, like, for example, if someone sees a TV ad, they're getting that dedicated 15 or 30 seconds to really become educated in your brand and in your product, and you're able to really tell them a story in a way that a lot of other ad types aren't. So, that you get that full share of voice, audio and visual. It's a really effective ad. And then, once that consumer has, that immediate education we just gave them, when they interact with other channels like paid search or paid social, those channels really just has to remind them of that story you already told them, of that education that the TV commercial already provided. And because of this, we've seen that people are actually more likely to take action on those bottom funnel touch points. So really you're letting those channels lift the way they're designed to lift, and CTV is giving them that assist that drives the user down the funnel. I know at Mountain, with our advertisers, we did an analysis and saw that conversion rates were actually increased by 22% for paid search and 9% for paid social after adding CTV to the mix and then evaluating after 90 days. And then we also looked at just like the overall session duration. So how engaged users were when they came through those channels, and saw that for paid social, for example, they had 49% of the traffic had a higher average session duration, again, after adding CTV as a channel previously. So we see it time and again with our advertisers that CTV is not just, driving those direct KPIs, but also creating that larger halo effect that can positively impact the performance of their campaigns across the board.
Great. Yeah. So I feel like at the beginning of our discussion, we touched on this idea of it's really important to find the right partner for what you really want to do with CTV. So Emily, I feel like you might be able to take this one first, but Lauren, feel free to hop in. If someone is new to CTV or just really looking to maximize the data they receive from their campaigns, what should they look for when selecting that right partner for measurement and CTV?
Yeah, I feel like Lauren will have awesome answers for kind of what to look for on the CTV side based on experience working with a ton of customers who are all running CTV. But I think from my perspective and working with Rockerbox customers who have tested dozens of CTV partners, I would say My one piece of advice there is consider the quality of the prospecting audience offered by the partner. CTV is great in that it unlocks this precise audience targeting and ensures you're able to reach incremental customers who aren't seeing ads on other channels. So I think that's a really important note on like, what do I do when I get into a CTV platform and I'm actually thinking about where I'm spending these ad dollars. From the measurement side, I would say, ensure you have your goals in place before you start running new campaigns. If you're testing Mountain because you want to acquire new customers who you're not reaching from other channels, and you want it to be competitive from a ROAS standpoint with Meta and with TikTok and maybe your other top of funnel channels, go in with that objective. And then, of course, being able to measure that is incredibly important. Reach is not really enough for most brands these days when it comes to the objective of CTV campaigns. So you really need to be able to measure that bottom line impact. And that's something that I'm really excited that this integration unlocks. Finally, I would say look for a measurement partner that you can grow with. There's really no one size fits all approach to measurement. Maybe, you have new business objectives and maybe you need to change the KPI that you're goaled against, or you're, right now just running digital channels, but you think in the next year you'll need to start running direct mail and CTV and linear TV campaigns. So looking for a measurement partner that provides that like room for growth with you is really important. And that's honestly where a lot of customers start to work with Rockerbox as well. They're getting ready to launch into a bunch of those diversified channels and really scale their marketing spend, and need to be able to have that apples to apples view compared to their more, always on standard marketing channels.
Yeah. And I think obviously we're biased because, I'm speaking on behalf of Mountain, but just in general, CTV, it's such a powerful tool, but it's a channel that has so much, it's difficult to measure. So you want to really make sure that you have the right tech partner who's giving you those tools to really maximize, the large opportunity that exists with CTV. So not all partners are created equal. What we would recommend is look for solutions that are more expansive, like Emily said, can grow with you and offer high quality inventory across a wide number of top tier networks. It can be a very fragmented marketplace. So the ability to reach your audiences across, the full scope of CTV is really important here. And then you definitely want a platform that can utilize both first and third party data to target consumers. And I think another thing that is really important, especially for Mountain, because we think of ourselves as performance TV, very performance focused. You want to make sure that there is technology that is automating optimizations. So actually driving towards better performance. At the end of the day, that's really what matters is, are you able to see the return that can support this investment that you're making into this channel? So again, you want a partner that has performance in mind, and definitely a lot of CTV solutions oftentimes do focus on reach and impressions a little bit more without giving, you the tools that you need to really measure the full impact. Like Emily said, reach is not enough anymore. It's just, we're in a performance world now. So obviously, again, biased at Mountain, but that's really the way that we look at this channel. And I think it's important when considering partners.
Great. So we touched on at the beginning kind of why Mountain and Rockerbox is really this perfect pairing for advertisers. But Lauren, I'm curious what you think about this. Why would you say now is the right time for this integration to happen?
Yeah, I mean, this industry, CTV, is growing faster than ever. We're streaming more and more. I know there's a stat recently comparing linear TV, but basically 70% of viewers are no longer accessible by just linear. So we see that across all generations, people are moving to streaming more and more. And so for advertisers who aren't already leveraging CTV, they're going to get left behind as they lose more and more viewers from the linear perspective. So, I mean, obviously, we can all relate. We all are streaming everything under the sun. And as that viewership increases, the advertising opportunity is also continuing to grow. So we've seen streaming giants like Netflix and Disney Plus. They both added ad-supported channels to their subscription tiers. And even just recently, Amazon switched their Prime Video subscription to also include advertising unless viewers agree to pay another additional fee. And we've seen that consumers are very much on board with this. So, a lot of viewers say they actually prefer the ad-supported CTV viewing over the expensive no ad premium models, especially when they start to stack up across all of the different streamers. So good news for advertisers, but really what that means is, if you're looking to expand your reach or improve your overall performance funnel, now is the perfect time to leverage CTV. It's just continuing to grow. And we want to make sure that as advertisers do invest more in CTV, that they're able to accurately measure the impact of that increased investment. So that's why, we value this partnership with Rockerbox so heavily now and will continue to in the future.
Yeah, and I think from our side, I think Lauren covered that really thoroughly, but we hear from customers every day that they're concerned about third-party cookie deprecation and how that impacts their measurement solutions, and they just don't know what performance data they can trust. Say conversions are lower than expected or ROAS is lower than expected for a given channel. It's often hard for them to know, this is because of a limitation with what we're able to track versus this is the true performance of a channel. So I think it's kind of the perfect pairing with Mountain's verified visits and having that cross-device, really precise measurement as well. That just makes this a really good solution for a lot of marketers who know they need to be testing into CTV, but may be more hesitant to do it on a channel that relies on impression tracking alone.
Now, obviously, this is really a new integration. I feel like it was maybe a month ago that we first announced it. So I imagine it's going to take some time to really start to see kind of what the fruits this will bear. But Emily, and I think you both briefly mentioned it very at the beginning of our presentation, but what are some of the initial findings that you might be able to share, or maybe in a better way, what do you expect to see in advertisers to get out of this integration?
Yeah. And just for anyone who's joining in on the webinar who may have leveraged the Mountain integration before, who's confused about like what's changed, we've always ingested Mountain spend and have always tracked Mountain activity via impression pixels. This integration, again, we're getting that live stream of verified visits directly from Mountain. So kind of filling in the gaps with the impression tracking that weren't available to be measured before. From this, we've seen 5x increase in attributed conversions. And often that's because like implementing impression pixels on every single ad was oftentimes forgotten when you're really scrambling to launch a new CTV campaign. Implementing that one extra impression pixel probably is not top of mind. So this kind of takes the work out of it. We just get the data directly from Mountain. And of course, some cookie blocking on unsupported devices, some IP addresses that may not have been passed on pixels. Those are all kind of some of the reasons for the improved measurement with this partnership. I mentioned this at the top, but because of that, of course, the probably 10 customers who are currently leveraging this integration on our end have seen an 82% increase or improvement in CPA on average from this improved integration. Again, that's probably the true value of performance all along, but now we're better able to measure the impact. Actually, I'll share a note from one of our mutual customers, National University. And honestly, I think direct feedback is probably the best. I'll just read their quote. They said, we are now able to measure the performance of national universities' connected TV campaigns alongside all of our other marketing channels and use that unbiased measurement to better inform strategic decisions. The knowledge gained has enhanced confidence as we scale our CTV campaigns. And I think really the crux of this integration is that enhanced confidence piece, because we're now receiving that full picture of attributed conversions directly from the Mountain side.
No, great. Thank you for that. And Emily, I feel like you've set us up perfectly for one of the last questions that I wanted to bring up today, and it's about cookies. Lauren, I'm curious, do you have any concerns, especially from like the CTV perspective, about this cookie deprecation now that we're sort of finally seeing it go into effect? Do you think this will affect this integration with Mountain and Rockerbox, or even just the results of advertising on CTV?
Yeah, I know it's such a hot topic. It's gotten a lot of advertisers into a frenzy recently. But luckily, for us here at Mountain as a CTV platform, we're not reliant on cookies, which is of course huge in this pending cookieless future. So for advertisers who are looking for channels that will remain impactful in that future to come, CTV I think is a really great place to start. But it's been an interesting conversation because as this has become more of a hot topic, it's identified a problem with a lot of other channels who have been really overly reliant on just this one data source to deliver measurable performance. And really it's part of why, we built our proprietary identity graph to be ID agnostic. And so we can map a variety of actual signals for connected TV household devices. And those include things like IP address, but also device ID, Google Analytics IDs, MA IDs, like several other identifiers that we can use so that we're not solely reliant just on one. And again, not relying on cookies specifically at all. So this definitely allows our marketers unparalleled scale too when they're building their high performance CTV audiences. And then of course, what we're talking about here today, really accurate cross-device measurement, both now and in this potential future.
Yeah, I completely agree that the panic around third-party cookie degradation ignores kind of the broad horizon of cookie-less tracking solutions like Mountain's verified visits, and also ignores some of the limitations that have always existed with cookie-based tracking. At Rockerbox, we've always supported measurement of a diverse marketing mix using measurement methodologies way beyond just that cookie-based tracking. So for example, we track our customers' direct mail conversions by performing an address matchback, and we integrate with post-purchase survey tools and use promo codes for attribution. We also have a robust probabilistic measurement approach that we use for walled gardens to track views like on Meta and YouTube. And this is also where great measurement partners come into play. And especially when those measurement partners have invested a lot of time in partner relationships with advertising platforms like Mountain to just provide direct access to things like view-based data that would otherwise not be available. So I think that, and then there are also, of course, other measurement methodologies that don't rely on cookie-based tracking at all. For example, Rockerbox somewhat recently started to offer marketing mix modeling as a measurement approach. This uses a very sophisticated correlation analysis off of more aggregate data like revenue and spend on just a daily level. So that type of measurement approach, which is often useful to layer on top of that true attribution data, can also be helpful for getting that full picture of the impact of each marketing channel, even into the future when cookies may be less important.
Thank you for that. I feel hopefully that has calmed some anxiety if anyone hasn't in the room of that cookieless panic that you mentioned. But Lauren, Emily, this has been a really fantastic discussion about really everything anyone's ever wanted to know about connected TV measurement. Just really stellar insights, and that I hope I've given everyone in the room today with us some actionable ideas for their own future CTV plans. Now, I want to make sure that we still leave some time to field some audience questions. So let us just jump right in. Feel free, either of you, to jump in at any time. But let's go to this first one here. If I'm already a Mountain and Rockerbox customer, will I automatically see this integration?
I can start. Yeah. So we made it pretty easy in the Mountain platform to set up this integration. And so, yeah, in your Mountain platform, if you go to there's an integrations page and you'll see Rockerbox as an option there, which is very exciting. And really all you need to do to launch the integration is to select the Rockerbox integration and then add your Rockerbox ID. And from there, we then can set up the integration with Rockerbox. So in the Mountain platform, that's all that's really needed. And then once it is set up and we are sending those verified visits from the Pixel to your Rockerbox account, we can help you also set up automated spend reports so that you can also be sending your Mountain campaign spend automatically to Rockerbox so that you can start to measure KPIs like return on investment and actual cost per conversion and things like that.
Yeah, honestly, the automated spend reporting is probably just as exciting as verified visits for a lot of people here. But yeah, on the Rockerbox side, setup is pretty much the same. Within the integrations page, where you'll see a list of all of Rockerbox's integrations, you'll see the option to integrate with Mountain. Pretty much all of the setup is handled on the back end. From there, it's a very quick integration to set up. So if anyone is interested in testing, just reach out to the Rockerbox support team and they can get that integration set up for you very quickly.
Great. All right. So the next question we have here, and I think just by the very nature of what the beginning of this question, I think it's going to be a Lauren question. So I already use Mountain's dashboard. Why is it important to see my data within the landscape of my other initiatives?
Yeah, this is such a good question, because I think it's so important to have a really robust and holistic view of your campaign performance. The Mountain platform is a really great place to measure, the overall impact of your CTV ads. So we have verified visits. It allows us to track all new site visits that were driven from your Mountain campaigns. We walked through, the actual methodology there. So once we know that CTV influenced and drove that visit, then we're tracking the full impact of all new site visits, all of conversions that came from all those new site visits. So conversions and revenue following that initial visit is going to be the full picture that you see within Mountain. So that what's nice is that it gives advertisers that big picture view of their CTV impact. And then our reporting suite lets them dig into more granular dimensions of that performance. So what audience attributes are driving results, or what geos, what TV networks are producing the best return, et cetera. So a lot of insights can be gained specifically from the attribution that we're seeing in the Mountain platform. In addition, I think it is also really important for our advertisers to review their Mountain campaigns in a platform like Rockerbox, so that they can, start to see how your CTV efforts are aligning to your overall customer journey. So how does Mountain stack up right alongside all of your other channels? And with Rockerbox, you can see digital channels as well as offline channels, linear, et cetera. That multi-channel attribution gives you better insight into how each individual campaign or channel is going to stack up against your overall efforts in a more of an apples to apples comparison. It also gives you the opportunity to better understand how is Mountain, for example, influencing or interacting with other touch points, like we talked about. What is that bigger halo impact that Mountain has on your paid search, your paid social, your email campaigns, et cetera? It's very common that Mountain will drive that initial site visit and take the position of more of that high funnel initial site visit driver, and then a retargeting campaign, let's say through Meta or even like a branded paid search campaign, or what are going to drive that actual conversion maybe weeks later. So that being able to see that full customer journey is very important for advertisers through a partner like Rockerbox. And so I think Mountain definitely has a lot of value in terms of those granular insights and the overall big picture of your CTV campaigns. But a platform like Rockerbox is giving you that, across all of your channels, that full user journey insight and where Mountain fits. So both are honestly, in my opinion, essential when you're evaluating your investment in Mountain specifically, and really all of your channels.
Great. So I think we have time for one more question. It's actually kind of coincidental because you just mentioned customer journey. Emily, I think you can be able to take this one. Someone has asked, how can I use this integration to capture the full funnel of my customer's journey?
Yeah, great question. We've talked a little bit about the more tactical side of, Mountain sends that user level touchpoint data back to Rockerbox. We have similar integrations with dozens of other partners that similarly provide that type of user level tracking to create that user level path to conversion. But I think what's probably most interesting to share is a couple of insights that our customers have been able to unlock by seeing this full customer journey. One example would be, I recently chatted with a customer who has been running Mountain CTV campaigns for a little while, and they started testing into another social channel, kind of like we talked about, trying to reach net new customers who weren't being reached by any other channels already. What they actually found from this path to conversion data is that the prospecting campaigns that they were running from that new channel test were actually reaching users who had already had another first touch point, and actually frequently overlapping with Mountain. So we then know, Mountain is already reaching these customers as that true first touch point. It's finding the prospecting audience. And this other test is kind of piggybacking off of it and providing a little bit less incremental value. So when I think about my overall prospecting budget, it doesn't really make sense to be spending a lot of marketing dollars on, that channel that's kind of just piggybacking off of another, and having that full path to conversion is really helpful, because from just platform reporting, both channels would take credit for driving that conversion, and it's hard to see, what is actually more effective in driving conversions.
All right, that's fantastic. Thank you again, Emily and Lauren, for being a part of the forum today. And thank you all at home for joining us for this second edition of Mountain Forums. If you were really glued to the talk and you didn't take as many notes as you would have liked, don't worry. That's what recap emails were invented for, and you'll receive one in your inbox sometime after this session. Now, keep on the lookout for other Mountain Forums coming later this year. And if you want to see what else we are up to, visit our webinars page to see past presentations or register for our next event, which is actually happening on March 12th. The friends at Media Post, called Creative Power, the Human Secrets to CTV Ads That Convert. Now, if that title is any indication, it's a session that you're not going to want to miss. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you at the next forum.